Okay, enough of that. Hello, hello. Welcome to the first ever podcast. I am, of course, JBTM with Mr. 5POA himself, and we're here to just talk a little toys, I guess. So, Mr.
That's what
5POA,
that's what the title says.
yeah, so what is our topic for this evening, sir?
Today we're talking about when is it time to stop collecting a toy line, and how do you know, how do you know it's okay to stop?
All right, you want to start us off?
Sure, I thought that you were hosting, but that's completely fine.
You're a
So
co-host.
let me start. Let me start with a question. When is it okay to stop collecting, Jace?
Probably never.
Never. No, actually, I tell you what. Okay, I do have a productive question. Can you think of a specific toy line that you were ever really passionate about that you walked away from? Can you remember one in particular for you that you just walked away from it, or maybe it was snatched out from under you and you had no choice but to stop?
For me, it would be wrestling. My dad
Okay.
got me into wrestling for a long time. I grew up watching it, and just over time, the prices for it started getting too high. It started to get to be where a lot of figures I wanted were exclusive, so it just got too difficult to get a hold of the kind of figures I wanted. So I just kind of stopped doing that line in particular.
Now, wrestling. So I know Mattel does wrestling. I don't know if they do anymore. I know Jack Specific used to do wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
What wrestling figures were you into? What was it? What company? What line? What was it?
Mattel was the one that I collected.
Okay.
So the Mattel ones, and they do like Ultimate Editions, basic
Hmm.
figures, elites. Like the Randy Orton I sent you a while back.
Hmm.
That's an elite
Yeah.
figure.
Hmm. Now that's an interesting point though, because with wrestling in particular, I remember I've only ever bought one wrestling, no, two wrestling. I bought two wrestling figures. One was the Hollywood Elite series with John Cena that I wanted to use the head for to see if I could turn him into Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as their basic like $10 line, the only one I ever got, and I don't even remember her name anymore, but it was somebody that was like in a kind of a cat costume, and I wanted to see if I could use her as a live action substitute for Black Cat.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like the package said that it was like series 131 because they've
Mm-hmm.
been going on for so long.
Yeah.
So one thing that maybe you can speak to, because I don't really follow wrestling, I looked into this particular fighter though, and like right after, she had that action figure, they dropped her contract. So with wrestling, I have to imagine that there's sort of an ebb and flow of, if in particular periods there's even fighters you're all that interested in, or you might lose interest because there's maybe nobody that you're actually following. Is that the case?
Well, I grew up more of the '90s wrestling, with The
Mhm.
Rock and Steve Austin, that kind of stuff. So I
Right.
have I have the figures for those. Like the Ultimate Editions
Mhm.
are kind of like the if there's any wrestling figures you want to get Ultimate Editions because they got multiple heads, hands, soft goods.
Right.
Sometimes they come with belts. So it's kind of like you're spending $35, but you're spending it on a deluxe figure with a lot of
Mhm.
articulation. So to me, I've collected some. Like I tried a variety from like the '80s to '90s to 2000s. So it's kind of picking and choosing with which wrestler I prefer. And I try
Mhm.
not to do like the Marvel Legends trap where you keep buying so many multiples of the same person all the
Right.
time. So that's kind of my thing.
But I can also see how that would be kind of easy, because even within wrestling you have lots of different characters. But I mean, I don't want to get too lost in the sauce over just wrestling in particular. But so for you it was wrestling. Okay.
Hmm.
So when you decided you were done, what did you do?
I sold a majority of my figures that I had in box, made a
Hmm.
pretty good penny off of them, and
Okay.
the rest of and there are still a few of them I keep displayed because I still really like wrestling, so I'm gonna keep the ones I do have displayed. But it's kind of like, sort of since I sold a lot of them loose and in box, the collection has sort of died down a lot, but not enough to where it's like I'm not satisfied with what I own currently.
Do you ever get seller's remorse?
Not really. My mentality is when I sell something, I kind of am happy to let it go. Like the first
Mhm.
time I sold something, I was sad to see it go, but over time, since I've been doing it, I've kind of learned to let stuff go because on one hand, it benefits a collector like us who may be
Mhm.
starting out, so they get a chance to get that figure without paying so much money for it.
Mhm.
Because I don't charge so much for my figures. Like I'll take them like toy stores and stuff like that, and of course I get some control over what gets priced. So,
Right. Okay. Well, that's good.
mhm.
I know that for me, I I know that for me, I do sometimes suffer from seller's remorse, but it's usually more because I sell something and then months later I'm like, oh man, I wish I had this for a comparison or a head swap, or hey, I just thought of a
Mhm.
funny gag. Oh man. There's
Yeah.
very like, in recent years I haven't had that problem, but when we look at the things that cause people to give up on a toy line, as I see it, it is often going to be either you've lost interest and maybe outgrown a line, or just your interests have changed. It could be that you're priced out of it, just by the company. It could be that life circumstances have just kind of forced you to stop doing things. It could be the line dies and is discontinued. I know that for me, my first real heartache over a line and stopping collecting a line of all things was actually the Kenner Aliens line back in the mid 90s.
Ooh.
I was so in love with that toy line. I don't know. I mean, I had other toys before that, but there was just something about that line in particular that really just captured my imagination. And it was so bad. I can remember being like, I don't know, maybe 12, 13 years old, maybe, and actually calling Kenner in Pawtucket, calling old Pawtucket, Rhode Island. I'm like, hey, I haven't been seeing any aliens. What's going on with aliens? And like the person like telling me, oh, that line has been discontinued, and I just felt like my legs were swept out from under me. I'm just like, no, I didn't
Mhm.
want it to end. And so for me, my response was that I ended up buying as many like on clearance alien figures as I could, and that's when I started doing customs, where I started doing part swaps and repainting them and just making my own dumb variants, because like, well, if they weren't going to do it, I was going to do it. So that was like, for me, I had to stop collecting because they stopped making them, but I wasn't willing to let it go. I just had to keep going and just like, fine, I'll make more, until finally I
Mhm.
ran out of things to paint, and
Yeah.
had to move on.
For sure. No, I've just this year since I've been selling a lot of stuff, I've just been trying to go with what makes me happy. Like, what do I want to collect? So I've been trying to
Mhm.
like find the stuff that I want to get personally for me. We were talking a while back about, changing things up with YouTube. And when you're in the tour
Mhm.
reviewing game on YouTube, it's kind of hard because there's so
Mhm.
many different channels and newcomers coming up that are doing the same thing. And it's kind of hard to review something when there's so
Mhm.
many people already doing it. So you always have to change things and try new
Right.
things like we're apparently doing now on a podcast. So we're definitely doing something. But no, it's I'm trying to think. My mind just went blank for a second. But I've been cut bad. Like I tried Blockies, if you've heard of those.
I've heard
They're
of it.
like
Yeah.
model kits. I've been doing a little bit of those though, because they're like 15 to 20 bucks.
Mhm.
So you can build like characters, like building from scratch, which aren't bad. I can build one for like 30 minutes and enjoy myself collecting it because it's a small collection. It's fun, and that's what I think it should be. Like Toy Game said here, it's not always important to be a completionist unless you're really dedicated to it, to the line, like
Mhm.
TMNT and stuff like that.
Right. But I almost feel that there are certain times with completionism where the completionism is almost the hobby itself when it comes to a certain line.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there. I think that for me, going back to that Kenner Alien line, that's probably the only thing I've ever wanted to be a completionist, where like I just want the whole shebang. And even now, I still don't have all of them because some of the later, like, Space Marines are hundreds of dollars because they were limited and whatever. So like that's the only line I ever wanted to be a completionist in, and even I'm not. So I think I do agree with Toy Gaines that completionism is sort of, I think, its own thing in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But that's me though. I mean, like with Marvel Legends or DC Multiverse, there is no way on earth I would ever even attempt to be a completionist, nor would I wish to be, because there's not enough of it that I like where I'm like, no, I just really want all
No.
of this. No, no, give me more artist proofs.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because being a completionist, if you're gonna go that route, you have to be very dedicated to it. Like you
Right.
said, you gotta be all in on the line or not at
Mm-hmm.
all. You can't just cherry pick figures and say, "Oh, I want to complete this now." Like, for example, like if you want to do the Avengers, well, try
Mm-hmm.
to find the characters that the version of the Avengers you grew up with.
Right.
Find that. For me, it's like Silver Age is the Avengers I'm looking, so I'm trying to build that
Mm-hmm.
roster. So something like that, if you want to complete a certain team, that's good to do. But if you want to be a full completionist, you better have a big bucket of money hidden somewhere to be able to pay for all those figures and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, not only, well, yeah, obviously, and I'm sure that if we're gonna be talking about stopping collecting, I'm sure that a very deep discussion about money has to probably happen.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of it is, if you're a completionist, then your joy, I would have to imagine, needs to come from the act of incrementally completing the collection more so than the item itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I cannot think of a single toy line that I've ever loved so much, except again for Aliens, maybe, where it's like, no, I have to have all of these things and they all delight me equally and I just love every single one of them. I mean, even with that, I can say, okay, this is dumb, this is whatever. So if you're completing and it's not bringing you any joy, I mean, I don't want to like Marie Kondo my collection, where I'm like, this one sparks joy, and then this one does. I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not making you happy, then I think that if we're going to approach the question of is it okay to stop collecting a toy line, the first, or at least one of the first questions that's probably really important and really helpful is asking, why am I collecting this line to start with? Do
Mm-hmm.
I have an objective? Do I have a purpose? What joy am I getting out of it? If you're just kind of doing it to do it, then that's a good, I think that right there is just an indication to say, okay, well, maybe this is one that you can stop on. If it's not making you happy, if it's making you, you're balancing the ledger and it's more frustrating, than whatever. If this is a hobby and hobbies are supposed to make us happy and it's not making you happy, then there's no harm in stepping away from that and figuring out, is there a way of refocusing my efforts here in the hobby that's going to actually give me that happiness?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to. Sometimes you have to really always ask the question why. Like when I see a
Yeah.
new figure on a shelf or a new line that's being
Hmm.
announced of something that maybe like, I might get it.
Hmm.
Always best to ask the question, why do I want to get it? What are my points? And usually I come up with like 3 points. And it's
Hmm.
like one of them you mentioned, of course, will it bring happiness? Number
Hmm.
two be what is the longevity for? Am I going to keep it to the rest of my
Yeah.
life, or am I going to wind
Right.
up selling it down the road? It's like what you was talking about, where you talk about figures you have in box.
Hmm.
Like, am I going to sell them? Am I going to keep them in box or review them? It's something like that. It's basically kind of like that.
Yeah. So, quick pause, just for context to the audience.
Yes.
That's a reference to a conversation we had previously where I talked about feeling kind of overwhelmed by a bunch of stuff that I have backlogged. And we
Yeah.
were talking about inbox versus out of box collecting. And I was saying that the only things that I have new in box are things that either I have not reviewed yet or I'm still debating, well, am I going to keep this or not? And it's kind of like playing chess where you're just kind of keeping the finger on the piece and not letting go of it because you're still making up your mind. And that's
Hmm.
kind of like what that is for me. Like the stuff that I have that's still in box, it's either on the to-do list for the channel or it's like, well, am I going to keep this? I don't know. So that's how it is for me. Other than that, I'll save boxes for things like NECA Ultimates where they have all the different pieces, and I just like to keep the box and whatever, and I'll keep them safe and sound. But beyond that, I don't really usually keep a lot of boxes. That's usually it. So as far as new in box, it's only either to do list or do I want it. So
Yeah,
that's what that was about.
that goes with that because there are people who are inbox collectors, and there are some who like
Mhm.
to have their figures loose. But the one caveat about it is if you're a loose collector and you don't. Now, I've been to a ton of toy stores. I know we all have sold plenty of stuff in toy stores, I'm sure. And there comes a point where I have talked to many of them, and most of them grade you higher with your product if it's still in the box. Well,
Right.
what if you take it out of the box and later on you choose to sell it? Well, you can still have it complete, but
Hmm.
they like it better when
Right.
it's in the packaging or when you have the packaging with it. So,
Well, my mother always warned me: stay away from loose collectors. They'll
mm,
break your heart. No,
yeah,
no, and that's completely fair. I know for myself, I and everybody has to do what works for them. I don't really my biggest seller's remorse has always come from selling to a toy store or a comic shop
mm,
because every time I've ever done that, it's always been for the sake of a quick turnaround. It's always been like, hey, I'm looking for, cash for this fast. So it always ends up getting undersold. And then invariably, if it's a store that I go to, I'll be going back there for weeks or months and I'll see this thing that I sold on the shelf that they gave me like $10 for, and they're selling it for like $50. And now it's like I can't even buy it back if I wanted to have it back. And it's almost kind of like watching like your ex, with a new boyfriend, you know, and it's like, man, I let her get away, and I can't get her back. So,
perfect. It's perfect.
and you know what? And to speak, let me extrapolate on that relationship analogy. When it comes to a collection, I think maybe, and this is just kind of off the top of my head, if you're thinking about collecting a line or not, is this collection going to be, casual dating? Is it serious dating, or is it a marriage? you
Mm,
know is this thing I want? I could see myself like, yeah, this is the thing I kind of want to go in for, for the long haul, or is this thing I just want to try out? And like a good example for me recently is those DC Sonic the Hedgehog crossover figures.
mm,
Not the kind of thing that I would normally go in for, but I just really, for me, as not just a reviewer, but just as a person who loves action figures and the business of action figures and the engineering, I wanted to get my hands on some Jakks Pacific DC figures and see, okay, what did they do with it? How did they handle it? I wanted to kind of test drive, you know, this other company, kind of, getting in a pool that I like that I'm used to other people. And so, you know, for me, it's like, okay, 3 or 4 sets, maybe there'll be six at some point if they do, the rest of them. Okay, that's fine, you know.
mm.
But then you have something like Star Wars Black Series, which it took me years to even allow myself to get a single figure from that because Star Wars is just so overwhelming, and that's like, okay, that's like a 10-year commitment right there. And so it's like, so yeah, I mean, do you just want to try something? Do you want to have the fun of seeing, hey, how does this work? How does this feel in my hands? How does this go with the other stuff I have? And just enjoy it and just kind of casually date a collection
Mhm.
versus, I think that's a good question to ask also.
Yeah. Like, do I
Not all
want
collecting
to?
has to be for marriage.
No, no. I think marriage would be like, okay, I'm all in. I'm a completionist. Dating
Hmm.
is like so and so, and then just being friends is more like, I'll just pick and choose what I want. For
Yeah.
me, I'm more of just the pick and choose kind of person,
Hmm.
especially nowadays with like maybe later on we'll do a topic about money and how to save and stuff when it comes to collecting. But it's
Well, you
kind
better find somebody else to talk to you about that because I might not be your best example.
of. But no, it's like nowadays companies are increasing prices to the point where it's getting harder to continue in the hobby we love to do.
Right.
And my wife was bringing me a glass of water. It's a little units tore up in here, so I'm burning up a
Oh,
little.
okay, because I just heard like a bunch of squeaking. Like I thought maybe there was a ghost, like just like opening
No,
the
no,
door
no, no.
creakily.
No, it's my door. My door
Okay.
hinges need some repairs, but
Yeah.
um
As we talk about all the money we spend on action figures, our houses are falling apart around us.
yes, yes. Well, this is an old this what we live in now is an old 94 double wide. So, it's
Okay.
a pretty good size. It's pretty style house, but back to the collecting part.
Yeah.
I mean, just nowadays you have to pick and choose what you want because you can't
Mhm.
complete everything unless you're in the line, like we said, all the way
Yeah.
through.
Mhm.
You're not going to be all into it. Like me, it's like I can't keep doing GI Joe anymore. GI
Mhm.
Joe is just going to be so much. All their figures keep becoming exclusives all over
Mhm.
Hasbro and other stores. It's just getting more and more
Right.
difficult to be able to buy the stuff I want to get. So I've kind of been out of the GI Joe game for a while now,
Mhm.
and wrestling is starting to fall that same boat. Just because it's not just about money, it's because I'm looking at longevity. Like, what do I really want to collect, and what I want to keep for myself?
Mhm. Well, and I would say also, and this is just also me kind of, free thinking. And I guess this is kind of an apt analogy because it is coming back into style, but not so much you and me in our generation, but like, our parents' generation
Mm-hmm.
having the record collection. When
Mm-hmm.
you had to buy vinyl, you had to buy the LPs.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something to be said for curating a collection that really reflected who you are and what was important to you musically because you only have so much space and you have to buy the music back then. So I think that part of it is, a question of if I'm curating a collection versus just hoarding plastic, then what is my collection reflecting that's important to me and who I am? And also, do I allow myself to have the freedom to let that change over time? Do I have the freedom to say, hey, just because this represented a period of my life where this was really important to me, it's not so important to me anymore, and maybe this is now, and to kind of give yourself the freedom to say, yeah, again, I don't have to do this forever. I can explore new interests, I can explore new hobbies as I curate something that just kind of represents me and who I am changes.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was like I was mentioning earlier about the blocky stuff. You
Mm-hmm,
have to build your own action figures.
mm-hmm,
And for some people, they don't want to build their own action figures. They don't like to do model kits. That's fine. Everybody has their own personal preference. Me, I enjoy doing it because once you're done building them, it's worth it they because I had bought Bandai model kits and I had bought these blockies, and the difference between them is night and day. When I build a blockies model kit, I feel like a miniature action figure in my hand.
yeah.
Like let me grab this real quick while it's on my shelf. Like this Optimus Prime, for example.
Okay.
5-inch figure has LED lights where he lights up,
Oh
eyes and
wow.
chest, and it's fully posable. No, it doesn't transform, but with it not having a transformation, it makes it where I can put in a lot of action poses and everything else. And it's
Mm-hmm.
sturdy too. Like it's no loose joints whatsoever on it.
Nice.
And again, some people will want to buy these. Some people like them. Others won't. But it's just a personal preference. That's again with
Well,
every toy line everybody collects. There's a personal preference with everybody.
Well, and to that, we talked about does it make you happy? I think another really interesting question to ask yourself is if you're a collector, at what point in the process do you feel the most joy? Is it the thrill of the hunt and finding that thing on the shelf? Is it that initial like Is it the getting it out of the box and futzing with it? Is it, in your case, the model building? Because with that really, I think, crosses over to, the same kind of interest as Legos and things like that, where it's more, your joy is coming more from the process than it is from, say, the thrill of the hunt, or, the thrill of acquisition, or the release of, okay, this is another brick in my wall of completion. So I
Mhm.
think a good question would be to ask, where does the greatest moment of joy come to you throughout the process of what you're doing? And if it's no longer serving you, then how can you transfer that to another, to something else?
I mean, for me, it probably varies between what I'm looking for, and I think it depends on the toy line. Like, for
Mhm.
example, Storm Arena. You're not going to really find
Mhm.
those in store. You got to order those from Big Bad Toy
Right.
Store or
Yeah.
like stuff like that. You have to strictly order. But stuff
Mhm.
like Marvel Legends, if I find like the Secret Wars Captain America or the Iron Man or the Maximum Hulk, if I find stuff in store, I'm happy to find it and get it because I think these days we have to order stuff more often. We get pressured about, especially us who do YouTube, we get pressured where we
Mhm.
want to get the newest thing. So we go to
Right.
order it and we wait for it to come in. And when we get it and we open it, we maybe pose on our shelf a little bit. But then the excitement's just gone once we're done doing what we want to do with the figure. It's like it just becomes another body on your
Mhm.
shelf that takes up a spot.
Right.
And to that, collecting shouldn't be that way. Collecting should be okay. I'll like every once in a while, I'll pick a figure off the shelf that I want to mess around with and just play with it. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
they're toys at the end of the day, they're toys. That's what they
Right.
are. They're made to be played with, you
Mhm.
know. And some people like to treat them as high end quality things. Some people like to pose them in a certain pose. But I say if
Mhm.
you're going to pose your figures, buy a statue maybe if you want to keep it in a pose. But um, But no, it just varies for people. But me, I do like the hunt. I like when I can buy the thing in store and not have to go through the online pre-processing and everything, because that
Mhm.
just saved me a lot of time on shipping and waiting and everything.
Mhm.
So
Well, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about, the YouTube aspect of it, because that's a very different conversation.
yes.
And it would probably be a very interesting conversation to have, but I still think that there's a certain principle that applies here,
Hmm.
which is to say that as a YouTuber who, does this, and I'll use the word professionally,
Hmm.
technically correctly, there is a balance of saying, sometimes you do certain things because it's good for the channel.
Hmm.
And then I know that for me, sometimes it's just a matter of, I know that, my community is going to really like this. And there are certain things that I might not necessarily, want, but I'll say, hey, you know what? I know that people are going to want to see a head swap with this, or whatever else have you.
Hmm.
And so it's like, sometimes you do that because you're doing it, for the audience. You're doing it for your community because you know that that's something that they're going to really appreciate. But
Hmm.
for all of those things that you do that, is for that aspect of your channel, it's important to sometimes just do things for you. And
Yes.
remember, like, for me, the best example in recent memory is my Halloween video was the Burger King Universal Monsters.
Hmm.
I I have no aspirations of that ever being a big hit on my channel. These are things that came out in 1997, but I had more fun making
Hmm.
that video and doing the lighting, and like going to my grocery store to buy dry ice so I could have fog coming out of Dracula's coffin, or just little things like that that brought me so much joy. And it's like, that's what it's all about. And whether you're doing it for an audience or you're just doing it for yourself, always find a way to, give yourself joy. And if you can't do that, then that's probably the first step in saying, okay, maybe it's time to step away, if not from all of it, from at least this part of it. And really, to kind of get back on, to really focus on, is it okay to stop? First of all, of course, it's okay to stop.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
anybody can stop doing any hobby that they
Hmm.
want. You know, of course you can, but the thing of it is, we don't always feel that way. We don't always feel like we have the permission. Like we sometimes, and you know what, this might be a thing. Maybe you've heard about this. I don't know if everybody watching has heard of it, but there is this principle in economics called the sunk cost fallacy. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of that, but I don't think our
So,
audience has.
so the sunk cost fallacy basically is, if you've invested into something after a while, even if it's not panning out for you, you don't want to give up because you feel like, well, I've invested too much, I can't stop now. And
Hmm.
so what ends up happening is you just kind of keep putting good money after bad, and you just kind of throw money away on something that is not worked out for you. It's not going to work out for you, but you've just kind of gone too far, and it's hard to give yourself permission to stop.
Yes, for sure.
And so I think that that concept applies to everything in life. It applies to your finances. It applies to your hobbies. It applies to your relationships. That idea of, I've invested too much and I can't stop now, that can affect every part of our life.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, unless you are collecting for a purpose, and I guess that's something that's kind of worth talking about, because not everybody is collecting just for the sake of the fun of it. Some people are collecting because they see, this is an investment towards something.
Yeah.
And that's a very real kind of collecting also. And, that's not to be dismissed. And, sometimes those collectors need to think, okay, well, is this going to be the investment I think it's going to be? Like maybe, I don't know what the action I don't know what the action figure equivalent of a Beanie Baby might be. Yes, I do. I got it. Anybody who went all in on any of the recent sequel trilogy toy lines, anybody who, as soon as like the Force Friday, everything for the Force Awakens came out, or the Last Jedi, they just bought everything because in 50 years this is going to be worth $100,000.
No.
No, those are Beanie Babies. Those are the Beanie Babies of the toy world now.
Hmm.
So just to whoever went all in on the Eternals, God love you. Um, but joking aside, that those are real collectors too. Those
Yeah.
who are collecting for a purpose.
I mean, if you're doing this as a business, you're not going to
Mhm.
make as much as you hope. Now, there will be some figures out there that do make a lot of money, but most of the time, it's usually something that has to be very rare if you're
Mhm.
going to make any kind of actual penny in this, if you're doing it financially.
Yeah.
But then again, anybody can go out and get a job. It's not impossible to go out and get work.
Right.
So it kind of falls under the scalping part where you have people buy multiple stuff. Like we see figures get up taken off the shelves all the time from Walmart's, Target. Something we want, we
Mhm.
go there, it's not there anymore, it's all gone. I seen
Mhm.
a Target employee once. I caught him taking some figures out of the collector's shelf over there, and
Mhm.
he said these are all mine. And then I seen one guy take a tire case full of trading cards with him, like filling his shop cart full of Pokemon trading cards, like in box. And it's
Yeah.
like you you're maybe there are some out there who are buying multiples to save them,
Mhm.
sure. Like I see that I see that on social media a lot where people buy multiples of the same figure and say, "Oh, I'm getting this for y'all. So if y'all want one, message me." Even though
Mhm.
full well they're going to charge more than what we could have paid for it in store.
Right.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword when it comes to scalping because there are those who want to help out the community and get figures for
Mhm.
people easier, and then
Mhm.
there's who just want to buy them just to make a profit. So it's kind
Right.
of a double-edged sword when it comes to that.
Well, you know, I've been I mean, action figures have been part of my life pretty much all my life. But when I started to get serious about it, when I started to really become passionate about it, was
Mhm.
when I was in my teens, and that's like mid 90s. That was in the height of like the Toy Biz Spider-Man figures and X-Men figures, that sweet spot right before the classics line,
Mhm.
where everything was like 3 for $15 a KB, you know. Um, and I mean, even back then, we were talking about, scalpers, and there's always something. There's always some figure that is hard to find,
Mhm.
because somebody wants all of it. And one of the things that and this is only me, I try to remind myself that not everybody that buys stuff is a scalper. Not
Yeah.
everybody that wants to resell
Yeah.
stuff is a scalper. And that there is a certain level of maybe somebody making a few bucks for, their efforts that isn't entirely unreasonable. I feel like in a lot of ways the market is again, the market is always going to, bear what it's going to bear. If something is worth what someone's willing to pay for it. And, if someone is willing to pay something ridiculous because they want it that badly, well, that's between them and their wallet and their conscience. My attitude is, if you see something that somebody's selling and it's a ridiculous price, if you can, try to hold out, try to wait. If you're patient,
Mhm.
eventually, if oh, what was it? So, um, so that DC Godzilla 2 pack with Wonder
With
Woman.
Wonder
I
Woman,
was
yeah.
looking at that, and so I had a comment from somebody wondering about the aftermarket prices on eBay, and they were speculating that, well, maybe it's going to be kind of a Magic the Gathering Spider-Man situation where there's going to be people that just want the Godzilla and they're going to be selling off the Wonder Woman.
Mhm.
So I took a gander. I took a gander at, eBay, and I saw lots and lots and lots of Atomic Godzillas.
Mhm.
And the one Wonder Woman I saw they wanted $90 for, which is more than the 2 pack. You know,
Mhm.
it's like I could buy the 2 pack retail for less than that. Like, what are you doing?
Mhm.
But the thing is, eventually, eBay can only become so clogged with stuff that somebody has to budge, somebody has to go down in price, because at some point somebody's going to want to make money and unload, what
Mhm.
they've got. So if you're willing to be patient, I think that usually you can find it if you're willing to be patient. Toy shows can also be a great place. Some of the best treasures that I find for my collection are loose at toy shows,
Mhm.
and a lot of times they're going to be willing to haggle. You know, so again, my mantra is always, if you can, just try to be patient.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure. That's like with Hasbro recently re-releasing, the Cable, the print Power Princess,
yeah.
and Warbird. They announced too they're re-releasing the Wasp and Giant Man 2 pack, which is a pack I missed out on originally because that one sold out. It was like a Hasbro exclusive set.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I know. I had to think for a second. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, I missed out on that one. I tried to go pay for it, and right when I was about to click checkout, it was all gone. So I didn't get a chance to get it. So
Mhm,
for me, I'm glad that companies reissue stuff for people like me
mhm,
who missed out on it the first time.
mhm.
It gives for some of me and others a chance to buy that said
Yeah,
figure. So
absolutely.
I was looking at the comments.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't. I'm on my phone, so, and I'm like on a little screen. I
Yeah,
can't see nothing. So
yeah. It was diecast sends his friends and boys. Oh, really? Okay. All right. There's a diecast store locally and sends his friends and employees to buy the hot items at all the retail stores. Interesting. Interesting.
mm, I have an issue. I have an issue with an employee at my local Target who, I don't know if it's that he's getting the stuff for himself or he's like strategically like hiding stuff. But I mean, I've caught him do some stuff, and it's like, look, I'm not here to make anybody's job a problem, but it's like, come on,
Hmm.
it gets frustrating.
You'd be surprised how many Walmart Target employees like to buy product on the shelf only to turn around and resell it. A lot of them do that
Oh yeah,
for sure. And I forgot about Funko Pops, how they're going under. Apparently,
really.
Yeah, it was
The fact that every
reported.
time I go to Target, there's 4,000 on the wall isn't, they're not doing
Yeah,
well, really.
yeah. I literally in my local Walmart, I can go to my entertainment section, and there's a giant wall shelf full of them, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't want Funko Pops. I don't have anything against Funko Pops, but it's
Mhm.
the same. It's kind of what we was talking about collecting. Funko Pops. How long they've been selling stuff. So if you're like a completionist of Funko Pops, you can imagine having upon white boxes of a different character in each box, and how many number of figures they've released, or figurines, I should say.
Mhm.
Especially now too, with them releasing their mini Funkos that they've been doing.
Mhm.
So I could imagine being a completionist on that front.
I can't, but again, I've never been into Funkos. The only Funkos I have, wait, do I even have any? I
I
think
have
maybe I have maybe three, maybe, and I think they were pretty much all gifts.
I have
So,
I have two. I have one that I bought at a store when we were up in the mountains a few years
mhm.
back. It was a RoboCop, and
Okay.
then the other one I got was free from GameStop. It was a One Piece Funko Pop. They gave it to me for free for being a good customer, and so
Mhm.
it was just a gift from them.
I mean, it
So I
couldn't be
don't know.
that good of a customer if they gave you a Funko.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
joking.
true.
The only one that I've ever bought, the only Funko Pop I've ever bought is Freddy Krueger, and that's because I'm a big Freddy fan. That has nothing to do with Funko and just everything to do with me collecting Freddy stuff.
Yeah,
Everything else I have has been a gift.
hmm
So,
but
so
for sure they need to. When it comes to certain toy lines and collecting, it's like we said, we just need to always ask the question, why are we collecting this line? Is something we're in
mhm.
for the long haul, or is it something we're in for just the spur of the moment? And I hear your dog barking. Mine's
Sorry
asleep.
about that.
Mine's sleeping right now. So
Unfortunately, because she started barking in here, that got the other one in the other room barking. Hey, hey, hey! Here, come here, come here, come here.
you're good. Mine came in just a little bit ago. She always wants my attention. Now she's sleeping on the couch.
There we go. Ah,
I
all
promise
right.
everybody, we are total professionals here. We
Yes,
just love dogs.
the world, Bitsy, Bitsy, the world.
Mm-hmm. Cute doggy. But yeah, I
Um,
mean, this year, since I sold like when I started out this year, I took the wrestling figures I told you about to the toy store. I sold like a
mhm,
giant tote full of loose wrestling figures.
mhm,
And since I sold a lot of that stuff, I've been happy because I've now kind of pulled myself back and
mhm.
focused on what I want to collect for myself, what makes me
Yeah,
happy, and what I want to keep collecting in the long haul.
yeah.
For sure. And I know
You
you're a
know,
big, and I know you do a lot of Marvel Legends and McFarlane for sure.
mhm. Yeah.
Like what it
But
like do
what
you
no
I was
fun.
gonna ask you a question. So you does Marvel Legends or McFarlane do the best on your channel, and which one do you prefer to collect more?
McFarlane absolutely does. From a channel perspective, it's absolutely DC Multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say a lot of that is well, there are so few of us, I think, that really have the love of DC characters that
Mm-hmm.
are doing YouTube channels. I mean, Brad, of course, Ahsoka, but in general, I think that there's just a lot more of a glut when it comes to Marvel Legends based creators, and they're always getting everything early, and they've kind of already got their audience established. And so I don't like to use the word competition because I don't see
Yeah.
other creators as my competition.
Yes.
My only competition is my last video and how do I be better. And the
Mm-hmm.
reality is that the more people there are talking about these things online, the more it elevates everybody, the better it is for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't see anybody else as, a competitor, but I would say that there are other creators that have definitely done a great job of, building a strong audience around Marvel Legends. And so I would say enjoy collecting.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would say I enjoy collecting Marvel Legends more.
Yeah,
I
I still
love.
have my. Go ahead.
No. Because if I say what I want to say, I might not get freebies anymore. I'm joking. That's not.
Well,
But
you're safe. Well, you're safe here. It's on my channel, so you're safe.
oh, there you go. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And you'll never tell. Everything I say is safe with you. No, what
Mm-hmm.
I would say is, I came. Well, this is there's kind of a two-part thing here. I loved Marvel first. I came
Mm-hmm.
into my deeper love for DC at large much later. And so for me, I have a lot more nostalgia and attachment to a lot of the Marvel characters in general, just more so. But also, I would say in general, I tend to have fewer issues with Marvel Legends. Like usually, like if I get if I get a new Marvel Legends figure, it's kind of what I expect it to be. It's not like, oh well, if maybe they hadn't reused this part and given it a different head or done this or that or the other thing. It's like it's usually there's a certain base level of quality I expect from Marvel Legends. And so it usually meets that. Whereas with DC, sometimes I feel there's a certain level of inconsistency where it's like, okay, well, this could have been better if maybe it had a different head, or man, if only the cape was wired, or whatever else have you, or man, why do they keep using this outdated body mold, or man, not every female character needs to be Nightfall Catwoman,
Yeah.
and it's like, those kind of things keep coming up over and over with me as a DC collector, whereas I don't usually have those same frustrations with Marvel.
Yeah. I think the issue is with that was a lot of people when McFarlane got a hold of the license and he
Mm-hmm.
announced he was doing a DC line. I think a lot of people had their expectations set up to where they were hoping it would be like Marvel Legends, and so everybody kept comparing Marvel Legends to
Yeah.
DC McFarlane. But if you go by McFarlane's track record before, like he always did statues, he always did 7-inch
Mm-hmm.
figurines. If he did any, if he did when he
Yeah.
did them, because I remember I had a couple of his McFarlane Terminator 3 figures, which were
Mm-hmm.
figurines. They had
Yeah.
articulation, but they were mostly statues.
Yeah.
And so when he got the DC license, I knew fully what to expect, just not the whole tons and tons of Batman part. That's the only thing I wasn't like many others expecting, but I kind of knew what to expect when it came to his, scaling wise and everything
Yeah.
else.
Well, I was kind of always expecting, Batman to be front and center because that's every DC line ever. Batman is what sells.
Yeah.
You know, my frustration in the beginning was my frustration has never been too many Batman variants. My frustration was that stretch when we were getting the Batman versions of other characters instead of the characters. Like, oh, I'd love to
Mhm.
have Doomsday. Yeah, but how about Batman as Doomsday? You
Yeah,
like
that
Ares? How about Batman as Ares? You like
that
Hawkman?
part.
Well, what about the Joker as Batman as Hawkman? It's
Like
like
what?
just give me the stuff I want, okay?
Yeah,
How
yes,
many of these
yeah.
do I have to buy before you give me the one I want?
Yeah. And Collector Express got a comment. I thought big Marvel Legends reviewers just buy their figures from overseas sellers to get them early. That's one thing a lot of tour reviewers will do too, is they will buy their stuff overseas to get them early. But most time, if you got like a big name like The Amazing, something like that, they always get stuff sent to them so they can review it months in advance before people actually get in their hands.
Well,
Some do, but
I'm
not
sure
all
it's
of
a
them.
different. Hmm?
I was saying some do, but not all of them is what I was saying.
Right, and I'm sure it's a case by case instance, and
Mhm.
again, I don't want to comment on other creators because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with them, and
Yeah.
I have a hard enough time keeping my channel, the best it can be. So, but
Yeah.
and look, there have been times where I have overpaid to get stuff, and
Mhm.
I'm always very upfront about, uh, like when Hawk Girl came out, I remember that was one that I overpaid to get quickly because I had to have her. And I
Yeah.
think I dropped like $80 to get that one. And I was
Mhm.
upfront, don't be me, don't do what I did. But you know,
I think the most expensive figure I bought was when I started collecting. It was my first year, 2019. I bought the NECA 30th anniversary John Matrix Commando figure.
Okay.
I paid $230 for that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just for that older figure. And then the other expensive figure I bought was the Mafex Hush Superman. I paid $200 for that figure. And so, kind of back then,
Yeah.
I paid a lot of money for stuff that I shouldn't have. But now, as I've done this game for a long time, I've kind of gotten better at controlling my money and paying for stuff I want to pay.
Stuff.
But yeah, it's the question is to basically answer the question. What the question was of the stream. I'm getting sidetracked here now. That dog reminds me of my dog. It's good. Is it okay to stop collecting a toy line? Yes, it is for sure. Just our advice, me and 5POA, like we said, just vote with your wallet and always ask the right kind of questions. Like before you start with that figure, make sure, is it something you want to keep collecting, or is it something you're just doing just to get people, just to be like the hottest thing? So, Mr. 5POA, you got anything else you want to say?
No, I think that we squeezed all the juice out of that one, and I'm not just saying that because my dog is barking.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Is there anything else you want to mention, though? We still got about 9 minutes.
Okay, yeah, let me grab my dog again, so that way we can, keep her occupied.
Okay.
I think she's just upset because
yes, Collector Express, you're right. McFarlane did take way too long to get the other DC characters out. But then again, too, like, Batman is a popular character, but then so is Superman. Like, for me, I didn't mind all the Batman. I just wish that he focused more on Superman characters as well. So,
yeah. So, going to this, so I think that there's a few different things we didn't really touch on. Again, sometimes you have to quit collecting because a line simply dies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's almost kind of like a grieving process. And I would say that, because a collection can become such a big part of our identity, that kind of looking at stopping can be almost like looking at a grieving process. I think that once you start asking, is this too much? Have I gone too far? Is this making me happy? That's when, you start to ask the right questions. And I think that when you look at a lot of the discourse online, you can see that, a lot of people are feeling it right now, knowing that DC Multiverse is ending. And so there are those that are jumping for joy because they don't like what McFarlane's done with it, and they have ideas of what they hope that Mattel is going to do. But no one knows what Mattel is going to do, And then you have other people that feel like, well, what's the point of continuing if, we know that McFarlane's not going to be able to, finish all these other different things. And so I think that when we look at the question of when to quit or when to stop, I think, treating it like a loss, almost treating it like a death, isn't necessarily a bad idea. Going through that, understand that there's going to be times you're like, oh, no, I'm fine. I don't need to stop this or whatever. And maybe even being a little bit angry about, feeling the wasted time, the wasted money, allowing yourself to be sad that something is ending and just kind of going through that process, I don't think is a bad idea to kind of treat the end of a collection as an end as any other end.
Yeah. Collector Express, it's like when DCUC ended, people started purging their collections because there was nothing left to collect.
And that's actually an interesting point because I never really got into DCUC. But then retroactively, years later, I did start to get into it because I was always more into DC Direct. And so for me, I would only ever strategically get the Mattel stuff that I could kind of, that I either liked better or that I could kind of fudge together to make this hodgepodge kind of a collection. And I imagine it's going to be probably that way for a lot of people moving forward. But the idea of just saying, oh, well, this is over, let's just get rid of all of it. It's like, well, I mean, if that makes you happy, do that. But I know that I feel like when DC Multiverse ends, I'm not going to just say, okay, well, out with the old and just get rid of everything I have. I'm sure there's even going to be things that I haven't gotten that I'm still going to be kind of looking to fill in holes here and there, you know.
Yeah.
But that's me.
Hmm. I mean, you should be proud when a line ends. You should be proud that it's like, hey, don't be sad that it's over. Be happy that it happened.
Right.
Sort of that kind of mentality is with me.
Yeah.
Whenever a toy line I've collected has come to an end, I don't tend to sell the collection much. I mean, I'll sell a couple figures, and of course, there'll be like a DC toy line the kid maybe likes, and so I'll give it to him
Hmm.
or something, to be nice.
Right.
But for me, it's always I like to keep the collection so I can look at and be proud of what I've gotten. But
Hmm.
over time, you do have to try to sell some stuff to make space for the new things. Like
Right.
Mattel coming in next year with their figures.
Hmm.
A lot of people will be selling out all their McFarlane stuff and moving on Mattel. So but I want to get what do you hope that Mattel does different from McFarlane? Just to sort of go on a DC thing to end the show.
I hope for greater character selection. I hope for better articulation. I hope for more consistent scaling. Whatever the scale that they do, whether they do 7-inch or 6-inch, whatever they do, I hope for greater internal scaling. I hope for less chase variants or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the Mattel equivalent of a platinum would be. Um, and there are good things that McFarlane does that I do hope continues. I love one of the things I love the most about DC Multiverse is the ability to do head swaps and part swaps and how
Mm-hmm.
customizer friendly DC Multiverse is, and that's the thing I do hope is going to continue. Um, so off the top of my head, those are some of the things that I think I
Yeah.
want to see the most.
Yeah, it all seems to like since now Todd is losing DC license to Mattel, he's now focusing on bringing a lot more of his Spawn stuff. Like he's next actually January we're supposed to be getting like a deluxe Spawn figure of his own, like
Mhm.
classic Spawn, which I might
Yeah,
be picking that up for sure because I like Spawn as a character. But I agree with you.
Spawn, Savage Dragon.
I think Mattel has been listening to a lot of people's feedback and how McFarlane's line has been going. I don't think they're going to repeat the same mistakes McFarlane did. And I think
Hmm.
they're going to make a lot of collectors happy as well. And like you said, I hope I would not mind. I don't hate the 7-inch scale because we got
Hmm.
NECA figures and all this kind of stuff
Right.
and we got some Marvel Legends too that are 7-inch, like She-Hulk, and Hulk's 8 inches tall. You got big Marvel Legends,
Yeah.
but there are a lot more people who'd rather have their figures scale with each other, especially Marvel and DC,
Hmm.
compared to them being taller than the other.
Right.
Kind of like when you did the anniversary the release of the Batman movie, when you did the Mattel DC Batman figures and you did the
Mhm.
comparison between the Marvel Legends, like
Oh yeah.
the shots and stuff. That was it was
Mhm.
kind of like, I think that's what a lot of collectors want, and hopefully
Yeah.
Mattel maybe they'll do that, maybe they won't. Who knows? You never say never, and you can't always predict what companies are going to do because they can always change their minds on a whim. So
Which is another reason why it's important to allow yourself to have a larger view of, whether you're going to keep collecting something or not, knowing that, it's not always up to you.
yes, for sure, for sure. And let's see. Collector Express brings up a good point. Hopefully, they base the figures off the prototypes that David Vaughn made when he worked for Mattel or Vonner. Yeah,
That would be nice. I know
those would.
exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, those would be really cool to have and to see for sure. I mean, it was a mixture of taking wrestling bodies and it was a combine of wrestling and DC together, and really they had
Mhm.
money right there. They did for sure, but they didn't want to go with it.
Yeah.
So I think too, also was a very hard point for Mattel was when they lost the Four Horsemen because Four Horsemen make
Mhm.
great sculpts.
They did. Yeah, no, that was definitely a major loss. But I also, this is a whole other conversation. Another big thing is when Mattel was in their heyday of making DC stuff, you also had DC itself supported by Justice League Unlimited, the Batman cartoon, the Dark Knight trilogy, Young Justice, Teen Titans, all of this wonderful DC content that you had stuff for all ages. Whereas right now, it's wonderful that, DC is like really starting to chart a vision forward, with their movies. But where is the content for kids, and not just like 2 year olds, but like where is the stuff for 8 to 10 year olds that can lend itself to new toys and create new fans? I mean, the Batman Cape Crusader show is fine if you're, a 45, 40-year old like me,
Mhm.
and you're okay watching 8 episodes of something and then waiting a year, but that's not a business model for, you know, making toyetic product and getting new fans interested in. So what I would like to see is not just Mattel do lots of stuff, but I would like to see DC itself kind of have just a major cultural renaissance where they're just really putting out quality content of across the board, not
Mhm.
just maybe having, 2 or 3 good movies a year and maybe a TV show, but that they're really, that they're really delivering on all fronts. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. Well, we're already at past the hour mark,
Yep.
so I will put you on big screen. Jason, you can tell them how to reach you.
Yes, you can look me up at 5POA Figure Reviews on YouTube, and you can also find me on Facebook and on Instagram.
And of course, for me, you can find me here on YouTube at JBTMR, or you can find me on Instagram, JBTM underscore reviews. That's where you can find me on. But 5 p.m. man, Jason, I appreciate you coming on with me tonight. I know we kind of went off track here and there, but hey, it's normal when you're talking about a hobby that you love doing.
And this is also our first time doing it, so it's only going to get better.
It will. It will. But appreciate everybody stopping by. Hope you all have a good rest of your night. Thanks for watching. Bye,
And
guys.
fight nice and have fun.
Mm-hmm.